Hello everyone, we are not going to do any interview today, but rather we will do a reaction on the video which has gone viral from the state of Meghalaya. The government of Meghalaya has held their first assembly right after the election a few days ago. And in their first assembly, which was held a few days ago, the governor of Meghalaya addressed the MLAs, the member of the Legislative Assembly of Meghalaya, in Hindi language. So as a protest against the usage of Hindi language, the 4 MLAs of the Voice of the People's Party, VPP party, protested against such language, saying that Hindi is not common in Meghalaya. It's against the tradition of Meghalaya people. So they held a very strong protest against that usage of very language, and it became quite dramatic. So let's take a look in this video and give a reaction accordingly.
Government of India to impose on us the language. No, we will not allow this. Down, down. We condemn the governor. We condemn the governor for addressing us in the language we don't understand.
This is not the behavior that is expected of an elected member.
Oh.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is not the behavior expected of the elected member.
Speak and voice the sentiment of the people, sir. So I think it will be better if you allow me to submit a few submissions. Sir, if we go according to the Rule 28 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in this August House, it speaks about the language of the Assembly. And here it speaks out very clearly that the business of the Assembly shall be transacted in English. So through you, sir, may I inform the Governor that Meghalaya is not a Hindi-speaking state. I would also like to remind each one of us that the people and the leaders of the state decided to part ways with Assam because the Assam government tried to impose Assamese as an official language. So, sir, I feel that we should not allow this to become a tradition in this August House, sir. Sir, the government of India did not pay any heed to the demand of the state for inclusion of Khasi and Garo language in the 8th schedule, thereby depriving us in various ways. So, sir, I want to appeal to you, sir, that the governor should address to us in the language we understand, sir. I don't want that we will proceed. We have to start shouting slogan if the governor continue to address us in Hindi, sir.
I will allow this house to, the governor will be addressing in Hindi, so I think we should let it morning.
Strong exception to this, and we strongly condemn. Strongly condemn. This is against the sentiment of the people of the state, sir. As a party, we truly represent the voice of the people, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
This is where I think on this issue,
I request the Honourable
This is the Chief Minister, Conrad Singma.
On this issue, I feel there should be no opposition, no ruling. We should stand united as one.
All the members are requested.
So I hear because of the toil and sweat of the people and the leaders of the state.
When the chair is on
just
his
not
feet,
get the state
when the chair is on his feet, all the members are requested to sit down. When the chair is on his feet, nobody else stands.
The governor continues to speak in Hindi. And the protest continues.
के अनुसार सरकार बेहतर शासन के माध्यम से राज्य की बहुमुखी प्रगत लोगों के जीवन स्तर में
Government of India to impose on us the language.
कर रही है.
No, we will not allow this. Down, down. We condemn the governor. We condemn the governor for addressing us.
Thankfully, the mic of this guy is not turned off.
This is not the behavior that is expected of an elected member.
Thanks to Meghalaya for
this is not
such
the behavior expected
dissent,
of the elected member.
voice of dissent
The
which is
Honourable
allowed in the
Speaker,
Assembly.
the Honourable Governor is addressing the House.
Stop the governor.
The Honourable
No, we are
Governor is
not
addressing the
misbehaving.
House.
We are
This is
truly
not the
representing
kind
the
of-
voice of the people of the state.
This is not the kind of
This
behavior
is
is
against
expected
sentiment of the people.
elected members.
The people of the state will not accept to be imposed. Language to be imposed on us.
Sir, the rules are
I
very
don't
clear.
understand what you are talking in Hindi.
Rules are very clear that if the written speech has been put in the House, the honourable members...
No. This is a
Honourable
design
members
from the
can-
government of India. to start
there are
imposing on the
restrictions.
states.
If an individual is not able to read English, then we cannot impose it on the individual.
We will not allow
the
this.
written speech has been circulated in the House.
Yes,
and therefore,
it
since
should
the
be
written speech
transacted
is
in English.
circulated in the House,
The rule is clear. The
so
rule is
therefore,
clear.
yes, and the rule also says
Rule
that
is
the written
clear.
speech should be given. Mr. Speaker, sir, I request that this kind of behavior should not be admitted. This is not the way the Honorable Governor
government
is
will have to
addressing the
think
House.
from now on.
This is not the kind of behavior that's expected of elected members. The written speech has been circulated
to
to
do
everybody.
anything.
And there is no reason why this
Self-respect
issue
of the
should be
state
made.
and its people is
If an
more
individual
important, we
has
cannot
got
compromise.
certain limitations in terms of not being able to speak or read a particular language, then we have to allow. Because the written speech has been circulated. It is not that the Honorable Governor
We
is
should
speaking,
allow this to become a tradition.
only because he wants
Addressing
to
the
speak.
Meghalaya Legislative
He is
Assembly by
able to
Hindi.
read Hindi, he is not able to read English, and that's the limitation that is there. There is no reason that we should make
have
this
to
an issue.
understand that Meghalaya
He is
is
not
not a
doing it
Hindi-speaking
because he
state.
wants to do it. He is doing it because he has limitations of
Meghalaya
reading,
is not a Hindi-speaking
not in
state.
English, but in Hindi. And therefore, the written speech has been circulated as per rules in English. And hence, as a respect, this is very, very sad to see that a disrespect like this is being done to the member, to the Honorable Governor of the House.
The sentiment of the people before the House.
Therefore, it's very sad, and I request the members
We respect the people who elected us.
not to bring out an
We
issue
know
like
this
this.
is against the
This is
sentiment
not
of
the
the
way.
people of the state. The people of the state have not given us the mandate
please sit down,
to
please?
speak in Hindi in
Would you
this
please
House.
sit down? Would you please take your seat? Would you please take your seat? Would you please take your seat? Since the translated version is circulated to all the members, and our Honorable Governor has certain limitations, so I will allow our Honorable Governor to speak in Hindi, and the translated version, English version, is circulated to all the members. And I request the members to kindly bear with the House and also show decorum of the House, not to shout while the Honorable Governor is making his Governor's address. So I would request once again to all the members to please bear with the House and kindly listen to the Governor's address. Otherwise, I will.
Sending Hindi-speaking governors to us. We don't understand what they're talking, so we will stage a walkout. We don't want to be part of this proceeding, sir. And those who don't feel insulted, they may stay in their seats.
This is an insulting for the state.
वॉकआउट कर गया राज्य सरकार स्वास्थ्य और शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में फर्मी डिलीवरी को बढ़ाने पर विशेष फोकस करते हुए सड़कों पुलों और
So that's the video all about. But the matter tonight is Meghalaya state is is a state where English is spoken the most in northeastern states. If you walk down the street of Meghalaya and try to buy few stuffs from a pawn shop or a small any kirana shop, the shopkeeper will definitely speak in English. That's how you find people in Meghalaya. It's a state where English is vastly spoken. Almost everyone can speak English. It may not be grammatically correct, but everybody can speak English, arguably. So the point is that there is a rule of procedure. I think Meghalaya state has a rule of procedure which I would like to highlight here, that in the rules of procedure 28, number 28, it says the business of the assembly shall be transacted in English. However, it doesn't end there. Provided that the member may address the assembly in his own mother tongue, only when he makes over to the speaker and the secretary a copy of the English version of his intended speech at least half an hour before the commencement of the sitting on which he proposes to speak, and also circulates such copies to the members at his own initiative immediately before he delivers his speech on the floor of the House. So it's very difficult to pass a judgment on this. As a representative of the people, the voice of the People's Party, the leader who is speaking and whom you have seen in the video is Mr. Arden Miller. His name is Arden Miller. He's the leader of the Voice of the People's Party in Meghalaya, and they are represented by 4 MLAs in the Meghalaya Legislative Assembly right now. So they walked out of the assembly as a protest against the usage of that Hindi language. And it's very, like I say, difficult to pass a judgment because although the business of the assembly should be conducted or transacted in Hindi, I mean in English, there is a provision that if anybody cannot if there is anyone who cannot speak English, they can speak their own mother tongue, provided they distribute and circulate the translated version of their speech in English at least half an hour ahead of the sitting or the assembly. So I think it makes sense. When the governor cannot speak English, then he has the right to address in Hindi, provided that is what the law says, what the rule says. However, when you look at the real democracy and representation of the people, it's also very important to reflect the actual sentiment of the people. Mr. Arden Miller, the leader of the Voice of the People Party, which I will call the VPP party, is very concerned for the fact that speaking Hindi in the assembly may become a tradition in which the people of Meghalaya do not like it. And and especially people from his constituency would not like it. That's what he says. And he is voicing the sentiments of the people according to what he says. So what matters here is either we go by the rule or we go by the voice of the representative, which is Mr. Arden Miller. And governor is just an appointed figure. He's not a representative of the people. And so in democracy, I think in democracy, the voice of the representative of the people should be prioritized rather than the convenience of the governor, because governor is just a rubber stamp. He's not an elected representative and should not be taken much into consideration whenever he goes in contradiction or he goes contrary to the voices of the people. So that's what I can think of right now. And when you look at diversity, diverse situation of India, Hindi is not, necessarily the official language of the country. Hindi is not spoken by every Indian. Honestly, I cannot speak Hindi properly too. And if you go to the south, they don't entertain Hindi. We all know about it. So Hindi is vastly spoken in the northern belt till Bihar. Hindi is the medium of business transaction in such states. So what is important here is, as a governor, he should also give some thoughts in order to respect the sentiments of the people of the state where he is serving. Without that, I think it's going to be causing a lot of problems in the state where he is going to serve. And one thing is, if the representative of the people, the VPP party MLAs, think that people should not speak Hindi at all in their assembly, then they should also change the rules of procedures number 28, which authorizes or which empowers people to speak in their own mother tongue, in any language that they are comfortable with, provided that they circulate the English translated version ahead of the assembly or ahead of the sitting. So it's very important to mark here. One thing I'm very happy about this video is, and the protest that they have set out in the assembly, first assembly right after the election, is that's the democracy we should have. And Chief Minister Conrad Sangma had stated that it's misbehavior, in the assembly for behaving in such direction, in such a manner, which is true in a way. However, I think when you look at democracy, it's very important for us, very, very important for us to entertain and to tolerate dissents in assembly, in our democracy. Where there is no dissent, there is no democracy. So more than whether what he's doing is right or not, what I would really like to appreciate the person who stood up for what he thinks is right is for the fact that he is the opposition in the assembly and he is representing his own people. So the voice of dissent is very, very important, and that makes our democracy vibrant. That doesn't necessarily mean violence. However, dissent is very, very important in the functioning of our democracy. Without that, we have no democracy. When you look at the case of Nagaland, there's no opposition in the state of Nagaland, right? So when you imagine such figures in the current assembly of Nagaland, can you find out anyone who would do the same as this guy, Mr. Arden Miller, who would protest and who would stage a walkout of the assembly in the state of Nagaland? Honestly, I cannot imagine even a single person who would stand up courageously and bravely to the point of walking out of the assembly, who would protest against the imposition of culture and language and some sort of tradition that would hurt the sentiments of the people. We have seen in this assembly of Nagaland Assembly about a few years ago, Mr. Demjen Imna Along, right? He is the state president of BJP in Nagaland, and he started speaking in Hindi in the assembly itself, let alone the governor addressing the MLAs in Hindi. He is a Naga, he's a local, but he started speaking, addressing the people, the MLAs in the assembly in Hindi. But people tolerate it very well. That shows, I mean, the assembly of Nagaland, like in a state like Nagaland, does not really have people who can really protest and oppose and stand up for what they think is right as an act of representation of the people. However, there is one figure, if elected, he would be doing. So I suspect that Mr. Gahudo Chishisumi, he is someone I suspect he would do such a protest and walk out of assembly if he was ever elected. But unfortunately, he was not elected. He was defeated in the last election by a huge margin by Hekani. So that's the side of the story of Nagaland. However, also when you look at Manipur state, it's very difficult to imagine such a figure who would stand up for the tradition or the sentiments of the people, right? So I think, just keeping aside for now whether what he is doing or what the VPP party is doing is right or wrong, before, without passing much judgment on that, I'm very happy, and it's a big breather to come across such a video where the real representative of the people stood up against such imposition of language. I think language should not be imposed, because Hindi is never the official language of the country. It was never, and it is not, and it may never, because we have huge population of non-Hindi speaking population, and I am one of them. And northeastern states are known for not speaking Hindi language. I think when you look at it, Tripura or maybe Arunachal, maybe the states where Hindi is spoken the most. So it's very important for us to also see who is a real representative here. I think the governor is not a real representative, so the voice of the people matter. And if the representative of the people, that is, if the people are not comfortable listening to Hindi in the assembly, then the law, the rules of procedures may be changed. And I think if I were the governor here and who cannot speak English, who cannot read English, but by the way, this governor, Mr. Paku Chauhan, is from Uttar Pradesh, and he is a graduate, either, I don't know in what medium. So he's a graduate, at least he's a graduate. So he could have done in Hindi, he could have done his graduation in Hindi medium, or he may have done in English as well, but just knowingly he may not have spoken. That is just an assumption. But even if he is not able to speak English at all, his message could be read out by someone who speaks English. That way, the people of Meghalaya and the party like VPP will feel that the sentiments of the people are respected, right? It's not necessary that the governor should come and speak and address to the people. It's not necessary, I feel. As long as the message comes from governor, someone, a representative of the governor who can speak English, who can read English, can definitely read out the message. And that's a message from the governor, that's all. I think that would have solved this issue in a larger, with a broader impact for the people of Meghalaya. And the Khasi Students Union have also kind of condemned the usage of Hindi language in the assembly. And the Khasi Student Union warns the government to look into the matter very seriously. And that's my thought, my thought. And the takeaway tonight is the sentiments of the people are priority, are paramount. and no other opinion or no other imposition or no other behavior comes on top of that. I think the sentiments of the people should be reflected. That's why there is a representative, the voice of the people. Now, this is that I'm not referring to the party, but the voice of the people, the voice of the constituents should be reflected very well in the assembly and in the government. When we do that, we have a real democracy. And such dissent and such protest, I mean, civil protest should be encouraged in every legislative assembly, even in the parliament. That is what makes a democracy vibrant. And I believe that with the real and civil practice of dissent, expressing dissent and disagreement, I think our democracy will go a long way, and the government will not act like a dictator or in the form of dictatorship in the days to come. So that's a simple opinion and a reaction to the video. I think if you have your opinion, please tell me and what you think about it. And here, I don't want to judge who is right, who is wrong, but I want to make sure that the voice of the people are represented in the assembly. And that's the reason why our MLAs are elected to the assembly, to represent us, to represent the citizens. So thanks for watching this. I would love to hear your opinion. Let's have a discussion.